Hello everyone, welcome back to Alex on Irons, and in today's video I'm going to talk about why I'm optimistic for West Ham this season. Not really a review of last night's game, but certainly discussing points of it as to why it's led me to want to make this video today. But before we begin, please do subscribe for daily West Ham content. Your guys' support has been fantastic so far. Thank you guys also very much for the comments, the likes, all of it. You guys are fantastic. Whenever I get the opportunity to discuss with you in the comments below, it means a lot. And thank you guys for commenting on the TikToks and the shorts, things like that as well. It's been great to kind of get to chat to you guys and have a place where I can chat a bit West Ham, and that's kind of what I'm going to do today. There's not really any news, any transfer news, which might be a red flag to some of you. It's not really to me because we're away in America, and although you might think, well, other clubs are doing stuff for their away on pre-season. Yeah, look, while I'm optimistic about West Ham this season, that doesn't mean that therefore we're going to do everything right and at the pace that we'd like them to. 100% there are issues and fundamental problems when it comes to West Ham's transfer business. The fact that we went into the season with this whole narrative of we have to sell before we can buy, PSR, we're strapped, and then everyone's saying that we're good for PSR. In fact, there was a report now that West Ham will not have any PSR issues and we should just be able to spend realistically whatever we want, obviously within reason. The rules are still the rules. I'm only painting this picture because when the pre-season started, we were a bit worried and we were a bit doom and gloom. We sold Kudus for 55 million. I think everyone was like, oh, okay. Then we got Malik Juff and everyone was like, oh, okay, it's starting now. And then it kind of stopped. We got Walker Peterson on a free, which I think no one was enamoured with. I think he'll come good. I think he'll be a really good player for us. He showed bright spots yesterday. And, now we have other players to get that we've not got yet and other players to get at the door which we've not done. The only reason I'm not too stressed is because West Ham do tend to do things at the last minute. Literally to the last minute. Do you remember the whole Pablo Fornals Benrahma situation when they left? It was literally within the last couple hours. So, just because I'm confident doesn't mean that I'm imagining we change our entire way we do transfers, things like that. That's not my point. But my point is, seeing the way Graham Potter plays, seeing the vibe around the camp, and seeing who we're linked to does give me some optimism. First of all, I'm going to talk about Graham Potter. I think he's the part of the puzzle that gets the most stick. I think when we signed him, there was a vocal part of the fan base that really wasn't for it. I'm a big Graham Potter fan. I think he was the best we could have got, realistically. I know some bad to say, well, you could have bought a manager out and got him to... I just don't... We didn't have the poll at the time. I don't know why any other Premier League manager would want to come to West Ham over where they were. You could... Some people ask me, I'll go get Marco Silva. Why would he leave Fulham to come to West Ham? It's a sideways step. So Graham Potter was available. Yes, he didn't have a good time at Chelsea, but then again, if you look at the recent history of Chelsea managers, who has? It's a tough place to be. More than any other club, the pressure is on. Even Manchester United, you can give them as much stick as you want in recent years. They stuck by Ten Hag for a little bit. They gave him an opportunity to. Chelsea, you don't get that. It was very clear that it was a stressful environment for Potter. In actual fact, I don't think he did a terrible job given the fact the squad that he had was so fresh, and basically they'd got into Football Manager or FIFA and got all the wonder kids and put them in a team, and that was who he had. I don't think that strategy really works. I think you need balance. And we saw Graham Potter can be a really good manager. We saw it at Brighton. We saw him do that. And I think, as I said in previous videos, I think Brighton is a much more similar case to West Ham than Chelsea is. I think you can compare the Brighton and West Ham job a lot more than you can compare the Chelsea and West Ham job. As much as I'd like to say that we're in the same kind of ballpark as Chelsea, certainly financially we are not. I think that will help Graham Potter. I think having the limited budget and having to look for these diamonds in the rough, as it were, will help him. But now, very quickly going on to the way we played, I thought we were fantastic against Everton last night. And yes, I know it's a pre-season friendly, but I think the fact it's a Premier League team, you can read a bit more into it than you could, say, against Grasshoppers or something like that. And now I'm also of the opinion that I'd rather us face random teams, the lower leagues in England or random European teams. But you can't always, you wouldn't get the same amount of energy in the legs. You wouldn't get the same amount of sharpness from playing a Premier League team. It's nicer for people like Juff, Guilherme. It's good for the younger lads as well, like Potts and Casey and Marshall, who all get minutes against Premier League teams, so we can see how they fare against teams that they're going to be coming up against this season. And I think we can see the vision now with Graham Potter. We can see that the team are beginning to buy into it. Not that they didn't buy into it last season, but they're beginning to learn the system. They're beginning to feel the system. They're beginning to understand the system. And to me, that brings me hope. Next thing for me is just the team as a whole. I think the team feel like a unit again. And I don't think we've had that since we won the Conference League. I just think it was tough in the last, year of David Moyes. I think we had some people falling out with Moyes. I think the results weren't really there. We just lost Declan Rice. We lost a big leader in the team. A couple of years before that, we lost Mark Noble. I felt like there was a gap there that wasn't really filled, and still hasn't been to a certain degree. But we're beginning to feel like a family unit again. I know that might sound cringy to some of you, but I think it's true. I think the players are getting on really well with each other. I think you can see it in the preseason videos. And again, some people always dismiss those and say, oh, it's it's not propaganda as such, but it's feeding a narrative to show that everything's happy and rosy. But they've always released preseason videos and training videos midway through the season, and I don't think I've seen it this happy in a while. Again, the players always talk about how Potter wants to create a family environment, how they have to have each other's backs, how we win as a team, we lose as a team. There's no individual gets blamed, and I like that, especially in a team where recently it would be quite easy to blame individuals. I mean, even last night you could blame Casey or Fotheringham. I'm not going to be too upset with Casey or Fotheringham because Fotheringham hasn't played in ages and yes, he should be making that save, but also we didn't sign him to be in the first team, which I know sounds crazy. He's signed as a training goalkeeper who's currently playing as a second choice because we don't have another option. Caelan Casey looked a bit shaky last night. I do think a loan would suit him well. I do think give him a loan, maybe even to Portsmouth. We must have a really good relationship there after the Freddie Potts loan. Give them Caelan Casey, then a year in the Championship just to get a lot of football under his belt. I think we could have a similar situation to Freddie Potts. He just comes in and is a lot more mature and a lot more ready. Speaking of Freddie Potts, he's ready for the first team. And there was a report that had just come out before I started filming that said we have no intention of loaning out George Earthy or Freddie Potts. I'm happy with that. I'd even add Callum Marshall to that. I do think that Potter has done well with the youth. Again, he's not, they've been part of the first team training, which is fantastic to see. But I do think it's all about the family integration. I do think he's treated them as first team players, even if they are not in the first team. I do think he treats them as, this is where you will be. It's not you can get here, it's you will be here. Just go through the process, which I like. I think that works, and it does help the environment. As well, we do have some personalities now. We did lose a lot of personality. Creswell was loud, Sofal was loud, Fabianski had been here for ages. Danny Ings, even though he didn't play very much, was clearly a personality. So again, there's a gap that needed filling. I think we are slowly beginning to get that vibe back, and that always helps. Again, I'm seeing the vision. I'm seeing the players self-start to believe in Potter's system the way we played last night. Yes, there was some individual errors, yes, there were some mistakes, but Potts looked fantastic. I think Guilherme looked really strong when he came on the pitch. Fulkrug looked great. Showed a bit of pace as well. Am I being silly, or did Fulkrug have some pace? Not like Guilherme pace or Bowen pace, but last season, obviously because of his injury, he could not barely move, but certainly, getting up to speed was a bit tough for him. But this time, he was running at defenders. He was giving them a go. Like, that's what you want to see. And I think he did really well. Paqueta, yes, his goal was, out of a mistake from Travers, but he looked great. The reports that he's happy to stay at West Ham doesn't surprise me. Again, if the environment's that good, the fact that players like Jean-Claire Todibo, Fulkrug, Paqueta aren't looking for ways out, it shows how good the environment is and shows that there is some belief in the systems being played. That has to be positive. Because if the environment was as bad as, we may have feared or people are trying to tell us, these players would want out. It would be very obvious that they would want out. To me, the obvious one's Naya Forgerd. The fact that Aguerd was so set on leaving, didn't even want to come to pre-season, and is now looking like a main part of the team, looking like a main part of Potter's plans. When you start to look just a little deeper, there are so many positives to what's happening at West Ham, how we're playing, how we're looking, the vibe. I even thought James Ward-Prowse looked good last night. If James Ward-Prowse doesn't score a free kick by the time he leaves West Ham, I think it'd be very similar to the Vladimir Sufal thing, where as soon as Sufal leaves, whatever club he goes to, I'm convinced he'll score a goal. I'm convinced that James Ward-Prowse will score that free kick. Overall, although it's pre-season, I am incredibly excited for where we're going to play next season. And I do believe that the players are buying into it, and I'm really liking the integration of youth. Orford came on a little bit last night, a little bit last season. I think he would also be a player that would benefit from a loan, similar to Caelan Casey. Get them out on loan. I'd even add the goalkeeper, Finley Herrick, to that. Get those three out on loan, so next season we potentially can see them integrate into the main team. And my last point is the players we've been linked to. Now, I know that West Ham will get linked to everyone under the sun, right? But my point is that apart from Callum Wilson, everybody else has been decent to great. Like, there's not any players that we've been linked to that I've gone, no, please no, apart from Callum Wilson. I think every other player we've been linked to has been fantastic. And yes, sometimes links are rubbish. We all know that. Sometimes it's literally come from nowhere just to create a story, just to create some buzz. But sometimes you get a link and it's 100% legit. I do believe it. And I do believe we're making moves for players. I do believe that there is going to be a lot of movement in the next couple of weeks. I do think we'll see a lot of players leave. I say a lot, like 3 or 4. I think we'll also see, and I think we'll see 2 to 3 incomings, because we know Graham Potter does want to lower the size of the squad. I don't know who's going to leave. I did think Guido Rodriguez was nailed on. I think Maxwell Cornet might go just because he didn't feature in last night's preseason at all. That makes me think he might be going, but again, I don't know. But the incomings, I do think we'll get 2 midfielders. I do think we'll at least get a goalkeeper. I do think the last days of the window, we will try and push for a striker. That's all we need. Again, I go back to what I said a couple of days ago. When we started this season, we thought we need a massive rebuild. Actually, we don't. Not only because Potts is ready, I reckon Earthy will be ready. Yes, he's got a small injury now. It might take a bit longer to get up to speed for him to feature in the Premier League, but coming off the bench a couple of times, doing some training, will help that. Those are 2 new players. Agurd's back. Walker Peters, Juff. We've actually already got 5 new players, if you look at it that way, before we even started to add midfielders. I do think we'll get 2. I do think we'll see players leave. I do think we'll get a striker. I'm weirdly optimistic, and like heavily optimistic. What do I think needs to happen in West Ham season for it to be deemed as positive? I'm going to go big here, and I'm going to say I reckon we can get 8. I reckon we can be in that pool of teams that fight to get in those European places. I genuinely do. I think that is a possibility. I think we should be aiming for that. Not only as like a, this is the dream, that should be the goal. That should be where we should be headed. I think we got the players now. Since that game in Prague, we've not had any stability because we lost Declan Rice. We brought in new players that didn't really work out, didn't really fit. And I think now we're finally beginning to get back to having some stability. And as soon as we lost David Moyes, I was one of the people that said, I don't think it's going to get improved straight away. Yeah, last season was a bit rubbish, but if we can bounce back this season, if we found the right members of staff, we found the right person for the club, which I think Graham Potter is. I know there was a lot of talk about his personality, but I think his personality suits West Ham to a T. Yes, he's kind of nice and outgoing, but there is a ruthless side to him. You can see that. You can see that deep down there is a bit of bite to him. I think last season he improved as much as he could with the players he had. He shored us up defensively and we couldn't do much going forward, but that's because we didn't have the players to go forward. And we do need to improve that still. But I think we're getting closer. And remember, Somerville's going to come back as well, and he will feel like a new signing. I know some fans hate that phrase, but I think in the case of Somerville, in terms of Fulkrug, in terms of the Guerd, in terms of Potts, in terms of Earthy, I think they all feel like new signings. I think they'll all be new leases of life for them at West Ham. I know Fulkrug appeared a lot last season. He definitely wasn't fully fit, and even he's said that. Even he said he wasn't fully fit. So yeah, I reckon we can get 8th next season, which I know doesn't seem like a great position, but that's back in Europe. And then from there, just keep building. I think there is a project at West Ham here, and I think that's what Graham Potter wants. I think it's what he's found. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I do think it will take time for us to get the signings in. Don't be surprised if we don't make any signings before we come back. So next week, I think, will be when we start to see us really push for players. And yes, I do agree that could be a bit late, and I could jinx us here, but I don't see many teams moving in the transfer market at the minute. So I'm not too worried. But more importantly, what do you guys think? Am I completely nuts? Have I lost it? Let me know in the comments down below. And please remember to like, comment and subscribe. You guys have been fantastic. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take it easy and bye-bye.